Some complex fractions require some addition or subtraction in either the numerator or denominator or both before we can perform the division. Now we can still rewrite this in a horizontal format, so x minus 6 or x over 6 minus x over 3 in a set of parentheses divided by x over 5. But before we perform the division, we have to find a common denominator and then subtract the fractions that we see in the parentheses. So we're going to have to do that. Common denominator between 6 and 3 is going to be 6. So I can go ahead and multiply the top and bottom of this second fraction by 2. So what that gives me is x over 6 minus 2x over 6. So that's still in my set of parentheses being divided by this second fraction, x over 5. So if I clean up inside the parentheses here, the numerator x minus 2x gives me negative x, and then still over 6. And now at this point it makes sense for me to rewrite this as a multiplication question. So I'm going to change the division to multiplication, and then I'm going to flip that second fraction, make it 5 over x. And so now we're ready to go ahead and do any reducing that we can. So in this case, I can see that there's an x that's in common in the top and bottom, even though this top one is a negative x. Think of it as negative 1 times x. So the x's go. And so out of everything, we end up with negative 1 times 5 in the top, which is negative 5 over the 6 that we have in the bottom. So there's our simplified answer. Second one, we have some addition or subtraction that's happening in both the numerator and denominator. So again, I'm going to first rewrite it in my horizontal format. So 2 over x minus 4, and then divided by 2 over x plus 3. So I have to resolve what's happening inside each of these sets of parentheses first, then I can go ahead and do the division. So I'm going to put both of these over 1 here. So we've got 2 over x minus 4 over 1. So hopefully we know our common denominator is going to be x. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply the top and bottom by x here. And the same thing is happening in the second fraction. We can see that we've got x and 1 as our two denominators. So I'm going to multiply the top and bottom of this one by x as well. So what does that give us in this first set of parentheses? So we're ending up with x in the denominator. And then we've got 2 minus 4x in the numerator, and then that's being divided by the second set of parentheses. Again, we're ending up with x in the bottom, and then we've got 2, and then plus 3 times x is 3x. So now at this point we're ready to go ahead and change this to a multiplication question and flip that second fraction, so multiplied by the reciprocal. So we have 2 minus 4x over x times, flip that second fraction, x, and then 2 plus 3x in the bottom. So the only reducing that we can do on this one is going to be these two x's here. Even though we've got a 2 in both of the remaining numerator and denominator, they're connected by addition and subtraction to those other pieces. So our final result here is going to be 2 minus 4x on the top over 2 plus 3x on the bottom. No more reducing from there. In our final example, the numerator doesn't really have anything for us to do, so we can just leave that as 3 over x plus 5. But then that's going to be divided by this whole denominator here. So we've got 2 over x minus 3, and then plus 1 over x plus 5. And so we're going to have to add those two fractions together before we can do the division step. And so in order to add them, we need to have a common denominator. And from our experience before, we see this x minus 3 and this x plus 5. There's no overlap between these, so the common denominator of these two fractions is going to include both those pieces. So that means I need to multiply by x plus 5 on the top and bottom of the first fraction, and then I have to multiply by x minus 3 on the top and bottom of the second fraction. So we've got this 3 over x plus 5 still hanging out here, and then that's divided by, still in this giant set of parentheses here, we now know our common denominator of those is going to be x plus 5 and x minus 3. And then up in the numerator, we just have some distributive property to do. So we're going to distribute the 2 to both pieces there. So that gives us 2x plus 10. And then over here, we're going to distribute a 1, so we just get x minus 3. So one more step before we change this to a multiplication question. We'll go ahead and gather the like terms up top. So the bottom is still x plus 5 times x minus 3. And so then up top, we've got 2x plus x gives us 3x, and then 10 minus 3 gives us a minus or plus 7. And so now at this point, we're ready to go ahead and rewrite this as a multiplication question. So we have 3 over x plus 5 times, and now I need to flip that second one. So I have x plus 5 times x minus 3 on the top, and then 3x plus 7 on the bottom. So to close things out, I can reduce away the x plus 5s, but there's nothing else. So our end result here in the numerator, we've got the 3 and the x minus 3. And then in the denominator, just that 3x plus 7. And so again, of course, we can't reduce the 3's since the 3 and the 3x here is connected by addition to the 7. So this is the best that we can do.